Not long ago, there was a huge outcry to defund the police. What happens when you apply that to the most populous city in America, which is New York, with a little over 8 million people, 35,000 officers to take care of those 8 million people? What did defund the police do to them? We had a chance to have a conversation with a New York City police officer about just that, and some of what he had to say might surprise you. Coming up next on Pile Driver Talk Radio. We've all heard about people talking, and you continuously hear all of the things that are saying, defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. But I've wondered, since all of that happened, how has it impacted what is actually going on out there? And Nick, this evening we've got a gentleman, we're just going to call him guest, and I have to protect his identity, simply for the fact that he is still a working New York City police officer. So his picture isn't going to show up. All you're going to do is you'll hear him, and that's going to be it. But this evening, we are going to talk with him about what's been going on. And New York City, I believe, to me, is a good barometer for things that are going to be going on in the rest of the country. Because you've got, I don't know, a few million people in New York, so it's only going to have a dwindled down effect. So we're going to get right to it. And our guest, again, this evening, policeman from New York City. How you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. Doing fantastic.
Good.
I really appreciate you taking time to stop and talk with us. And
thank you for having me.
Oh, it's, you and I have spoken a different couple of times, but to be able to sit and look back at things that have happened since the world turned upside down, and then since George Floyd, they were shot and killed, and that's started a whole nother mess of everything.
No, he was asphyxiated, supposedly. Depends on what report you read.
Really?
Yeah, he was the one that had the knee on his neck.
Right, I remember. What do you mean, supposedly, though?
I mean, depending on which report you read, he either died of a fentanyl overdose, a heart attack, or the knee on his neck. Now, get it just right off the bat with that. Right after it happened, you could not find one other officer who agreed with the tactic that officer used. Everybody thought it was absolutely disgusting. And, in the beginning, we stood with everyone. We agreed with everyone that it was wrong what happened.
I hear a big however right behind that.
However, the events afterwards kind of took away the sympathy. Everything that happened, the burning of the cities, the riots, everything kind of took away sympathy. I still don't agree with the tactic that was used. And like I said, I'm just speaking for myself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with the tactic that was used. I thought that it was, from a tactic standpoint, I mean, it was 8 minutes where the guy was on the floor, he was in cuffs. There was absolutely no reason for that to happen. He was in the car first, they took him out of the car, and then had him on the floor with his knee on his neck. Now, when he was in the car, he was saying that he couldn't breathe. Could that be attributed to the fentanyl that was in his system? Possibly. Could it also be a tactic that a lot of people used after the Eric Garner incident here in New York City? Yes. All right. I've had plenty of prisoners, complain of needing to go to the hospital and this and that. And it was just complete bullshit. It was. I'm sorry. Can I curse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Most of the time it was complete bullshit. It was just to delay their process of going to court and seeing a judge. And a lot of people also knew that once they went to the hospital, now it made them a medical walkthrough where they didn't have to go and sit in the general population in central booking, and they would be basically have their hand held until they went to see the judge.
Hmm.
Sitting by themselves, not in the cells, cuffed to a bench or a chair somewhere. A lot of, we call it playing the game.
Yeah, it kind of skewed the whole case and how it went down. I mean, I'm a firm believer that if you respect the authority when you're asked questions and are being detained, I think a lot of this would have been avoided. So,
Agreed.
although it wasn't, I can also say from being on the job for several years is that it's the tough part is you and others in the blue have to make a decision in a split second.
Yeah.
But jurors and a court and media and everybody has, as long as they need to make that decision, Monday morning quarterback, so to speak. And that makes it really tough when you're in law enforcement to be a good law enforcement officer as well as kind of maintain the balance to protect civilians. So I can agree with everything you're saying, but I can also see that it's really tough when we have to make those split second decisions, and then everybody else has all the time in the world to pick it apart or look at a camera snippet.
Exactly. That they have that 8-second video.
And that now makes everything a lot tougher for you guys, right? I got out at the time. You guys that are doing it now, I really don't. I can't believe that. It's a tough environment because everything you do, not only from the body cams that are worn, there are also civilians, bystanders that rather than jump in and assist, they're out videotaping, whether it's you getting your ass kicked or you having to react to protect civilians, even them while they're filming. But they're standing there filming. So it makes the job a lot tougher. So I respect you for that. And it's really tough. So it's a tough position to be in. But I got that in, and it's even more now, right? I mean, since that incident, the exposure to, by, and for law enforcement is unbelievable right now. And it kind of painted a picture of all law enforcement to be bad guys or not the good guys anymore, and that kind of increased the level of lack of authority and respecting authority. And I think that's caused a lot of different things. Would you agree that some of the biggest challenges based on that incident, and I know we're sticking to that one incident, but it's the effects after, that these topics, such as recruitment and retention, risk of prosecution for off-duty actions, officer wellness and morale, media coverage of police issues, ambush attacks, and crime spikes, would you say those are the biggest contributing factors when you put on that uniform every day and go out and try to do the job that are stuck in your head?
100%, 110%. The recruitment and retention. I don't know if you guys have looked at the stats for NYPD. I mean, how many people have resigned? How many people have just quit or left for another department? Well, I mean, we're on track for I think the last number was 3,000 just for this year alone. And the academy classes going in are 300, 400. So we're not making that up. We're not making up the difference. And and with that comes cops being so overworked to the point where they get no family life, no time away from the job. Yeah, you work your 8.5 hours, and then you're told, oh, you have to stay today for an extra 4 hours, and then if you have a 3-day swing, you get hit for 2 days of overtime out of that. And if you're a new guy, you might even get all 3 days taken away from you. So you're working, what is that? 15 days straight, 16 days straight without a break.
And that's where I got the overall wellness and morale, is because of that specific reason. You guys are getting wore out. And really, when you think about what you're having to deal with on the other side, there's a reason why people don't want to come in and work. Now, you guys are already on a job, so they're making you work more. Your morale's down, your wellness is down, and you're having to do the job because you're X amount of days from retirement, so you're trying to tough it out, and this is what you did for a living. This is your life career, and there's a passion there, and that makes it really tough. So that's, when I said wellness and morale, I think that also plays into the recruitment and retention, and we're talking about your wellness and morale, the guys that are on the job, because they can't recruit and retain.
The morale issue goes further than just, losing the days off. It's the micromanagement, it's the nepotism, it's the oh my God, I could go on and on, but me complaining about a certain issue within the department would, I'm trying to phrase this correctly, in this day and age, wouldn't matter. Have you listened to any of Eric Adams' recent speeches with the department image?
Yep.
So the way he spoke about the department image is basically saying that he wants people of color to basically run the department, which is 100% fine. I don't care what you look like, where you come from. I don't care about that. I care if you are capable of doing the job. If you're not capable of doing the job, which I've seen some people who were put in position just because they know someone or just because of what they look like, I've seen them absolutely fail at the job and it be 100% okay. Absolutely no repercussions, no nothing. Now, flip it, and I'm put in that position and I fail, I'm getting put through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just tough because with all that now, policing and the system starts to break down, right? Because all that's going on the sideline. Now the system's breaking down. You're unable to police like you used to. And the quality and the standards of the officer, these supervisors, is now nowhere. The standards are gone. There are no standards. I mean, you guys used to have to, when you came in, probably when you went to the academy, you had to run a mile and a half. That's gone now in your academy.
That is gone.
It's like,
that is gone.
Like, it's something that simple, but it's gone. So
it's gone because so many people failed it. They couldn't pass it. And they decided, you know what? Well, get rid of it because we're having a problem with hiring people. And if these people are failing out, then just get rid of it so we don't have to worry about that.
And that's exactly where I was going with the standards. Something that simple, they could easily dismiss. And that certification was in the system forever. Mm-hmm. But at a simple blink of an eye, they go, oh, well, you don't have to run a mile and a half anymore. Just come on in. Can you breathe? Eventually it'll be, are you breathing? Okay, you're here. Take the badge and go out. Put the uniform on. I'll see you later. And that creates the same thing we dealt with during, say, the Floyd incident, where officer training and officer follow-up and continued education and things like that are no longer there, those standards. And I got to tell you, after seeing the video, if I saw a guy and I was standing there and I was a fellow partner of his and he put his knee in his neck, I'd be like, look, man, get your knee off his neck. I don't care if you're a sergeant or whatever. Get your knee off his neck. We can do this. There's 4 of us standing around. Let's restrain the guy.
Right. And that's why
you're afraid. And those kind of standards and morale no longer exist. We're just dismissing stuff. We're going to run into more of this, and it's a shame.
Right. And now back to what you were just saying about how you would tell your fellow officer, move your knee, blah, blah, blah. Now my department does this ABLE training where it's exactly that. It's teaching us to intervene with other officers. Basically, you see an officer doing something where they can get in trouble, you can get in trouble, or possibly hurt the person that they're arresting, say a knee on the neck, knee on the back. It's basically saying like, hey, take your knee off, take your knee off. Because now, not only is it, a bad look, now we can be prosecuted for it. We can be arrested.
Yep.
I don't know if
Yep.
I don't know if you heard today about the officer that was indicted for punching someone in the face for I don't remember the exact story, but he was removing somebody from the Apple store in Manhattan. And during that, I'm assuming that a fight ensued. I haven't seen the body cam or anything, so I don't know. And again, I'm not Monday morning quarterbackman, so because I haven't seen it.
Right.
But he's being indicted for punching that person in the face. Now, what does that do to morale also, knowing that just for doing your job, you could be arrested just for a simple punch to the face, which is probably the least lethal amount of force that you could use.
Yep. You got no support anymore. And I think that's the nutshell, right? You have no support anymore when you're out there.
No.
You got to walk on eggshells and try to do this job where, there's crimes against people, property crime, drugs or whatever, and you're out there trying to do your job, but how much support do you get? And how far do you go? Do you chase? Do you do any of that? Because now you're thinking to yourself, if I push this person and it's on a camera somewhere, am I going to lose my job? I got X amount of years in. I don't want to lose this just because of that. So now, you're putting yourself in danger, because if you don't react, you could be the one that's really injured. So now it's a really tough thing. Do you react and possibly lose your job, or do you not react and you don't get to go home to your family? So, it's, man.
And if you do react, you might not get to go home either, because you might be in jail.
Right. And if you're off duty and you do something, they look at you differently as well.
Now it all depends on what you do. I mean, I haven't heard much about cops taking off-duty action up here. I know I myself drive home with blinders on.
I wouldn't take off-duty action, that's for sure.
Yeah, I drive home with blinders on from work. If I see another cop pull somebody over, I'll look and make sure that cop is okay.
Right.
If I see something heinous to the point where it's like a gunpoint robbery or a murder, something like that, I'll stop. Right. But anything else, I mean, you run the risk of losing everything that you work for trying to do the right thing.
Right. And that's a shame, because policing didn't used to be that.
No.
It's even hard to community police. I used to do a lot of community stuff where I'd go out and meet the community and talk to them and build that relationship. So when things happened in the community, it was always an easy interaction to say, hey, who did that? Over down the road or whatever. And I'd always get a good lead or whatever. And we had that relationship. It was give and take. I'd paint their baseball fields and cook barbecue and hang out with them. And then when stuff happened, they'd talk to me, or if they needed family help or whatever during Christmas or whatever. I mean, it was community policing. You don't have that anymore. You're almost afraid to interact with the community and do your job. I don't, it's so hard, man. I'm watching on the sideline now, but you guys got it rough. I mean, and I'm in a different state, so it's a little different here, but we still have the same problems. I mean, I talked to my buddy. Those incidents or those challenges that I mentioned, the recruitment, the risk of prosecution, all that stuff is everywhere. It's global. The false narrative, systemic racism in law enforcement, the lack of budget support, lack of credit for success in maintaining your low crime rate, the need for application of scientific crime fighting. That's something we don't hear much about.
No.
We're much more advanced than we used to be, and able to solve crime scientifically, but we choose to push this narrative of the cops are always the bad guy. Let's get them on video. Let's do this. We could be so much more further advanced if we took that approach. But
absolutely,
budgetary money and something like that, they're putting it into, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but they've got like mental health people riding around with police officers on occasion to stop crimes, and iPads where a mental health person will be on the phone with a potential suicide, and they're talking to him over the iPad. The officer hands the iPad to the person, and they talk. They FaceTime somebody on the iPad, and they talk them down instead of the officer just doing it. So there's little things that we're dumping the budget into, but it's just it doesn't seem right. But we're all bowing since the incident with George Floyd in Minneapolis. So
You
it's a
No,
shame.
mentioned
you're 100% right. We don't have mental health professionals driving around with us, but we do. They did start numerous different programs where mental health professionals will be dispatched to the jobs of emotionally disturbed people before we get there. And basically, we still have to show up, but they're in charge.
Right.
So if they decide that that person has to be removed to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation, we have to step in then.
Right.
And then we have to do what we have to do. I mean, if you have somebody who's having a severe psychotic break and they can't help, and then they tag us in, and we have to do what we have to do, then that mental health professional can turn around and say, "Oh, they were way too rough." Yes, but this person has that strength at that point where we have to be rough.
Right.
You want us to put him in cuffs, and that person's not in a rational train of thought. We're not going to be able to talk them into cuffs. We're going to have to do, unfortunately, what we have to do. And I've said it before, policing is not a pretty job.
Nope.
It does not look good.
When they send these professionals out, you think you have an advocate on your side, but in turn, that person, expert, whatever, is an advocate for them, who is another set of eyes on you to make the story even bigger, right? And that's not what it should be about. This is, again, another turn, another twist, where they're being funded from the law enforcement budget, and those people are not your buddies. They're not there to help you. They're the advocate for the person who's the mentally disturbed or whatever, ill. And then when you have to do something, all of a sudden you're the bad guy, and they're just an extra witness against you. That kind of stuff is what drives me crazy.
Us too.
You guys have mentioned budget a couple of times, and it makes me wonder. You had mentioned earlier that, for lack of words, the New York Police Department is starting to hemorrhage good policemen, and Nick is covered, and you kind of said, many different reasons why. Whether it's how things are going or what now is being pushed on. But there's a couple of things that I've been reading. Recruitment is down. Is that correct?
Is that what? I'm sorry.
Is recruitment is down?
Oh, absolutely.
Because
52%, Mike, nationally.
Yeah. Like I said, the classes used to be over 1,000, closer to 2,000 at some points. Now you're lucky to fill 300 to 400 seats.
Whoa.
And you have thousands of people leaving at the same time. So you're not recouping the amount of people that are leaving.
And a lot of those guys are taking early retirement because the old guys are just like, I'm not putting up with this. I'm cashing out. See ya. And the young guys are going for less pay in other areas, and the rest are just trying to hang on as long as they can and make it work and do the job that they're passionate about.
Yeah. I mean, the only silver lining right now is that tomorrow the new contract that we just got takes effect. So once we start to see how the pay looks and how, if it's worth it, hopefully people will start coming on. But those people have to be people that don't watch the news. Because if you watch the news and you come on this job, then you're doing it to yourself.
Right.
How many? We had spoken about bringing another guest on, and he couldn't make it. A former New York policeman that did not take what people say called the jab. He did not take any for COVID back when it was like, okay, you either take the inoculation or you're out of a job.
Mhm.
Were there a lot that said, no, I'm not going to take that?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I think towards the end, 90, I want to say at least 90%, you know, took the knee and did it. But there were quite a few people that I know that were just like, no, I'm not doing it.
And those officers found themselves unemployed.
Yes,
And
either
and
by their own choice or the department let them go.
and that was one of the things that this other gentleman we had spoken about that was going to come on did not take the vaccination, and he at that point separated for whatever reason. They said go, or he left, however it happened. Are any of those former officers eligible to come back?
I heard recently about one person that may come back that I know. I don't know if they did or not. I don't know if maybe they saw the grass was greener on the other side. I couldn't tell you. I haven't heard of anyone actually being reinstated yet.
Wow. Because just by budgetary numbers, and again, I was reading through different articles and news and trying to catch up. The budget currently says we're budgeted for X amount of officers across all ranks, everything. And right now, the last head count was 1,100 less than what you're even budgeted for. And like you're saying,
That's
that you can't even fill a third of incoming classes to graduate to be on. Now, for many people out there may not know, there are two stringent requirements to be New York City Police. And that's A, you have to be 21, and B, you have to have a 2-year associate degree. Is that still correct?
either 2 year associate degree or military.
So it's not like people can just walk up and go, hi, yeah, I want to put on a gun and a badge and I want to come work for you. It doesn't happen that way.
No.
So when they dismissed a lot of people because they wouldn't take a vaccination, and they have these able-bodied people that are out there that do the job well, and they're not going to come back, and yet not you personally, the New York Police Association can't even begin to get new recruits coming in. That's a huge problem. But I read another article that said they're trying to add another stipulation that you got to live in the 5 boroughs, or you have to
Yeah.
live within a certain proximity or within New York City.
Well, because as Mayor Adams says, he wants the people policing New York City to look like New York City.
So he wants everybody to look homeless. I apologize.
I don't know
I
what he
asked
means
some
by that. I
smart
mean,
ass
but
questions, but
if you get any of his tones from any of his other speeches that he gives, you can read between the lines.
he wants them to look like New York City people.
Yes.
So,
Now, New York City is a melting pot. You have every race, creed, ethnicity, culture. So, what does that mean?
yeah, it's
What
nothing that's
exactly
going to
does
look
that?
pretty. It, I can't. Can you even afford? Could a normal patrolman, officer, female, whatever, can they even afford to live in New York City on their scale
No,
of pay?
absolutely not.
So they're mandating something that cannot happen.
Now, say the person is already a New York City resident and they've been managing. Maybe they can. Maybe they know the tricks of the trade. I couldn't tell you.
I'm going to take a wild stab at it and say there's quite a few officers that do not live within city limits.
Yes. I couldn't give you the numbers or the breakdown on that, though.
No, I'm just taking a look at if they're trying to mandate something, that means a good majority do not. And they can't get recruits out, or they can't get recruitments to come in. There was one article that said the word that is out there is stay away. Don't even bother becoming a cop in New York City. I mean, there are so many things that I read and went through that did not extol the reasons of why you would want to be a policeman in New York City.
I mean, the number one reason would probably be the prestige. You know, I'm a New York City police officer, but they tell us in the academy it's the greatest department in the world.
I can almost believe that.
You've been there a while, so that is true. You took the job because of the prestige, because like I said a few times, is you're passionate about it, right? It takes
Absolutely.
that type of individual. This can't be I don't think people become cops for the pay. I really don't believe that. You
Not
know,
in New York City, at least.
when I started, I was making $6.10 an hour. So it's not about the pay, especially in New York with cost of living the way it is. It's a passion, and it's a passion for multiple reasons. So I think the passion is greatly tainted by lack of support, and that prestige is now starting to drop off for the new recruitment, not for the old guys, because those guys have been around when the times were good and it was good stuff. I think your newer guys are just like, you know, first of all, it's a different culture, right? The whole world is different.
Mm-hmm.
People would rather sit at home and do a job behind a computer based on the current climate of our country. And I can get that. It's hard to do a policeman's job sitting at home on a computer. So it's a passionate job. And you still have the people out there with passion. But it's those passionate people, I think, are going to departments with support as best they can give, and with you know, a track record of success, and just kind of the morale's a lot better there. I guess that's just kind of sum it up.
Well, yeah, if you go somewhere with support, you know, morale's going to be a lot better.
Right.
If you go somewhere where you're, you know, completely micromanaged and talked down to and treated like a piece of shit, for lack of a better word, the morale obviously isn't there.
Right.
You know, and no amount of pizza parties can change that.
Yeah. Right.
Part of that, when you're talking about a morale problem, they wanted to use some kind of a program to identify problem officers before they did something wrong to begin with. What the hell are they doing?
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, some kind of program that they wanted to put in place to identify who the problem officers were.
I mean, but okay, I wonder how they're looking at what makes this officer a problem officer. Are they looking at the CCRBs, you know, the Civilian Complaint Review Board? Are they looking at how the amount of CCRBs that the cop has? If a cop is active and works in a neighborhood where crime is rampant and they're constantly interacting with people, that cop is going to have more CCRBs. Now, you go to interview for anywhere, the first thing they look at is your disciplinary record, how many CCRBs you got, and your sick record. So if you have like a crazy amount of CCRBs, these places aren't going to want to take you. You're a liability to them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to step back for a second and take a broad overlook from your own personal experience or from things that you may have noticed. Before COVID came along, things were already starting to become difficult in your profession. Would that be a fair assessment?
I'd say that's fair.
Okay. Then COVID hit. Do you know, or would you be willing to say, did public perception of the police force go up or down? Were people politer, kinder, easier to get along with, or was there more crime, more middle fingers, and more video cameras trying to capture the bad cops?
Definitely more cameras, but it's always the same people. The same people that were at the protests wreaking havoc, not even the protests, the riots wreaking havoc, are the same people that are in your face with the camera, yelling at you while you're doing your job. Have absolutely no clue how to do your job, have absolutely no clue about your policies, have absolutely no clue about the force continuum, and will tell you how to do your job with the camera in your face, looking for a lawsuit, looking for a viral moment. Um, so that has definitely been the downfall. Everybody looking for that viral video.
Everybody looking for their 5 seconds of fame.
That was one of our shows.
Yeah. When it came to a point, and I don't know how far along it went, did it get to a point where New York City was in a lockdown mode because COVID was spreading so much in a panic and so quickly that they told
Oh
people
yeah,
just stay home?
yeah, everything was closed. Everything was closed. Cops were actually able to work from home at that point if you had a legitimate medical excuse. Now, did some cops take advantage of it? Absolutely, some cops did. Oh, I have asthma. Oh, I have this. I have that. I'm going to stay home. Now, asthma at the time, yes, it was a respiratory illness, so sure, that was fine. But there was no. Some cops would just like with everything else, take advantage of it, and were sitting home. And at that time there was so many cops out. I think we talked about this. We said 20% of the department at one point was out sick. And then they also had reasonable accommodations to stay at home and do their work as well.
What was the mindset and environment like at that point for people in your profession?
It was rough because not only was it a skeleton crew if you were working, it was also if you were in certain administrative positions, you were ripped out and you were put on a COVID task force where you had to go door to door checking on people, making sure that people were okay. I mean, I forget their exact duties, but they were literally going door to door. They were carting out bodies. They were escorting trucks full of bodies to wherever it was going. So everybody was overworked, just like now. Overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, and then the riot started and the appreciation went even lower, which meant morale went even lower. The overworking went higher.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I would have to go back and actually look, the George Floyd incident happened after the COVID hit, correct?
Correct. I believe it was shortly after Labor Day. I'm sorry, Memorial Day.
I would assume and imagine that things in New York City became tense only a matter of a couple of hours when that news story broke.
Once the video broke, the protest started. And then the protest got heated and the riots started. And all those people that were home on reasonable accommodations, all of a sudden, those reasonable accommodations were canceled. And then they were part of a unit called the Citywide. What was it called? Um, they brought them back and they put them on another type of task force. And they told them, "Welcome back. I hope you brought your riot gear because you're going out there, and you're going out there on your own. You're not going. You're not getting the horses. You're not getting the boys with the toys. You know, the emergency services guys that have like the big riot shields and anything like that. They said it's you and them, and that's it."
How did they expect you to do your job at that point? And I don't know if you can even think to say, did that create more injuries along the way?
I mean, you had just in the riots alone. If you just look up NYPD injuries during the riots, you had one officer who was struck in the head with a fire extinguisher. Another lieutenant was had a brick thrown at his head. Luckily, he had his helmet on. You had vans being torched. You had acid being thrown at cops. You had bricks. You had rocks. You had bottles. You had lasers. You had, you name it, they were throwing it.
That had to create much more of a hostile environment all the way around.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, you have all that going on, and you know that you get in trouble for retaliating. The lieutenant that I said that got a brick thrown at his head. You know, it was a snippet taken from that where the brick gets thrown, the lieutenant gets hit, and the cop that's with him pulls his gun out on the crowd. And they used that snippet to try and get that cop that pulled his gun out in trouble. This is the world that we live in now with policing.
I can begin to see why there would be issues with recruitment.
Yeah.
I would take a stab and say that those recruitment issues are not going to get better anytime soon.
Like I said, the new pay scale starts tomorrow, so maybe if we start talking about how much better we're getting paid, because if you're a top pay cop, your base salary goes up about $30,000. So if we start talking about that, maybe just maybe we'll get more people to come in.
Okay, this may be an unfair question. You say a top pay cop. What about the recruit?
Their starting pay also goes up $10,000. So I'm sorry, it might even be a little more than 10,000. Their starting pay now, I think, is 42 to 43, and I think it goes up to 52 to 55.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind that the selection process is a lot different than it used to be, Mike.
Yeah.
As he was saying, that process is slightly skewed as to who gets that position. So when we're talking about recruits, it's got to be the right recruit. Can't just be any recruit nowadays.
It has to be a recruit of a favored
Yes.
ethnic.
Now, I can't say that that's true because I've seen a lot of you go to the academy for training, you walk around, you see the recruits, and it is a mixed bag. It's everyone. And that's one thing that the department touts. We have 42 different cultures. They speak 300 different languages, this, that, the other thing. So, but if you go there and you look around, it's everyone.
Okay. Now, do they still have their own academy, or is it a state academy in a educational institution?
No, in 2015, they actually opened up $1 billion building. It used to be in Manhattan on 20th Street. Now it's in College Point in Queens.
Okay.
It's a big state of the art building. You know,
It's
it's
just for
nice.
NYPD.
Uh, no, I heard that corrections is there now too.
But that's just the city. Nothing out on the island.
No,
Nothing state. Nothing state trooper.
no. State troopers have their own academy. I believe it's in Albany. Nassau County has their own. Suffolk County has their own.
Right.
Curiosity makes me ask, is their recruitment any better than what yours is right now?
Which one?
Uh, statewide or the state police?
Suffolk County, Nassau County, state police. Any of them?
There, I mean, I can't speak about state police, the state troopers, but every other department is small compared to us. So if we put in 300, they're putting in like 80. So I can't say. And theirs is a lottery, really. You take the test, you have to score high on the test to even be considered to come into their academy.
Hmm.
I took the Nassau County test years ago. My early years, I didn't do too well, so I didn't even get a call back or a letter stating that I did bad.
Wow. When everything happened with all the riots and this wonderful defund the police happened, how bad did that affect NYPD?
I'm going to be honest with you. I saw absolutely no change.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, because I don't know where they're taking the money from. I know at one point they said they took $1 billion from our budget. Um, if you're a regular patrol cop, you saw absolutely no difference. It was the status quo. You continued to do what you did.
Did it create any more of a headache in doing your job or being effective at your job? Were people more riled up and it created more kind of a problem in that fashion, or it seems to kind of blow over?
No, it had definitely hasn't blown over. If anything, it's made things worse because now, back then, before then, if you were arresting somebody, there wasn't a crowd that would form.
Mm-hmm.
Now, almost every arrest that you make, a crowd forms, and everybody knows the law. Everybody knows their rights. Everybody's a street lawyer. Everybody's yelling at you, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And in the back of your head, you're going, well, clearly you have absolutely no clue what the hell you're talking about because I can do this legally. And everybody's got their phone in your face. Everybody's screaming at you. Almost okay, so if an officer needs assistance, there's two different codes. There's a 1085, which is like get here, and then there's a 1013, which is get here now.
Hmm.
And now almost every arrest that you effect turns into at least a 1085.
Is it? See, and I don't have any kind of a background to talk from. So this question is going to sound flippant, and I don't mean it to be. My dad was an officer. Is it worth it anymore to become a police officer?
I mean, absolutely. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm telling my kids to not do it. But if somebody wants to become a police officer, if it was their lifelong dream, like it was mine, I'm not going to deter anyone from doing it. If you want to go out there and you believe in the greater good, you want to help people, you want to, save lives, you want to do the right thing, absolutely do it.
Nick, would you agree?
100%. I mean, look, man, it's, as I was saying, it's not about the money a lot of times, man. It's about the passion. It's about the prestige. It's about pride, being loyal to something, being a part of camaraderie, the brotherhood. It's a lot different, man. It's different than any other job I've ever had. Um,
You got that right.
it damn sure wasn't to pay. It wasn't to pay. You know, I barely made anything. I was 20 years old, couldn't buy my own bullets, but I figured that was it. I'm doing this. So I went in and I did it, you know. But when I left, I wasn't making a whole lot. You know, it's just it's a of different type of job, different type of mentality. You want to help people, save lives, those kind of things. I mean, it's a giving job, right? It's not a taking job.
It takes your soul sometimes, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, it will. And, you know, families, you got to find the right life partner because they don't understand it. They don't understand why you're doing this, right? Why don't you go do something else? You can make more money, work less, bring less home, blah 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 blah. But when you find the person that gets it, then you can get through it. You know, it's a different type of job. Hard. That's the best way I can explain it. I don't know if our guests can explain it any better. I mean,
No, you're right. I mean, I've been with my wife the whole entire time that I've been with the department, and you know, I when I got on, I was dating her. I married her shortly after. I had a couple years on, and now we have multiple kids. You know, I think the worst part about this job right now is explaining to the kids that, you know, oh, daddy's not coming home tonight. I have to do overtime. Oh, well, why do you have to do overtime? Oh, because people need me. You know, they're young, so you can't tell them like, oh, you know, crime is up, people are getting killed left and right, blah blah blah. You know, you can't tell them that. Oh, you just tell them like people need your help. But then you get the look like, yeah, but I need you, and it breaks your heart. You know, or you have something planned with the kids on the weekend, right? Or a day off that you have. Maybe it's during the week. You have a day off during the week because we work rotating shifts. And that day comes, or the day before comes, and you go to sign out at work, and all of a sudden you have a notification for overtime on that day. And you're like, boss, listen, you know, I have something to do with my kids. And they're like, sorry, nothing we can do. And then you have to go home that night and be like, you know, listen, we can't do that tomorrow now because daddy has to go into work. You know, and it breaks your heart when you see the disappointment in their face. You know, so, and
it takes a while to get it. Yeah, they'll get it when they grow up, but it's rough, like you're saying right now. When they're young, it's rough.
Yeah, I mean, you just hope that when they grow up, they don't resent you for it. But at the same time, like whatever time you do get with them, you try to maximize with them as much as possible. You know, so that they don't grow up with that resentment. They don't grow up being like, my dad was never there. Yeah. You know, they look back on the times that you were there and they say, we had fun when we did this. This was great. This was great. Yeah, it sucks that he missed this. But, you know, when he was off, we did this. You know, I missed birthdays. I've missed Christmas. I've missed Thanksgiving. You've named it. I've missed it.
I missed 23 Christmases and 23 Thanksgivings. I was checking it out in a row.
That sucks.
Believe it. When I looked back, because I was doing midnights, and I'd get off Thanksgiving Day at 6 and have to go back in at 6. And Christmas was the same thing. Christmas Eve, off at 6 in the morning, back at 6 at night for 23 years. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But I think the kids got it because we had different, like with the in-laws and stuff, we had different times, different days of Christmas. It wasn't until the last 12 years I got to have Thanksgiving and Christmas with the family on the right day. So it was crazy. But yeah, it feels like yesterday that it just started. But the kids get it. They're 30 and 26 now, so they understood it. It sucked to not be a part of it, but they got it. So your kids will get it. I mean, it's and you know what? They appreciate it a little bit more when they understand what you're doing. You're not out playing golf. You're not out fishing, sitting at some bar. You're working and you're doing the right thing. So the
Yeah.
kids get it. It's not a matter of if they will. They will get it.
Yeah, but then I think of that Harry Chapin song, "The Cat's in the Cradle."
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
I don't want it to be like that. Like, they get older and all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, sorry, I'm busy."
Yeah.
"Oh, okay."
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get ready and wrap up here. If you could tell people two things that they could do that they could help make your job easier or better, what two things would you tell the public?
That is a fantastic question. What would I tell the public to make my job easier? I'm going to echo what I said to you the last time we spoke, actually. Uh, Cut us some slack. We're getting it from every angle. We're out there trying to do what we can for you. We're missing, like we just spoke about, we're missing time with our family to protect you. We're missing important events in our lives to protect you. And we're getting it from every angle in the aspect that not only are we getting it in the court of public opinion, we're getting it behind the scenes from our bosses as well. We're getting it. We're just getting destroyed mentally every turn. So cut us some slack at some point. We're out there to help you. You call us for a job, and just because you don't like the way that we handle it because we're handling it by the book, it doesn't mean that it's wrong just because you think it is. I said before, policing isn't a pretty job. You may not like the way that we do it, but that's the way that we have to do it. So just cut us a break.
And I don't know that many people actually take that into account.
I don't think many people care.
No, I believe that you're correct in that. They don't care.
No.
It's too much I, me, mine.
Yeah.
Well, they don't care till they need you.
Yeah, then it's a
And
whole
then
other
even when they
story.
do need us, some of them don't care either.
Yes.
I get called to a job for a domestic disturbance, and maybe I don't give the level of help that the person wants because legally, or according to the penal law or the patrol, our patrol guide, which is our big department manual, it doesn't state that we can do what that person wants us to do. Then all of a sudden they turn around and they go, "You know what? Fuck you guys. I don't need you guys." And it's like, well, you called me here to help. This is how I can help you. I'm sorry it's not up to your satisfaction, but that's just the way it is.
Just in one last thought, you mentioned that, and I think we covered this once before. The most, I don't want to say dreaded call, but one of the worst calls I think that you would get would be for domestic violence.
We did speak about this before, yes.
Because if I'm not mistaken, domestic violence is one of the worst unknown cases because you don't know what you're walking into.
Okay, and this, as I was going back last night and listening to what we were talking about, remember the two officers that were killed in Harlem last year?
Mm-hmm.
That was a domestic violence call. Okay, the mother called, She didn't state anything about a gun. She was having an argument with her son. I don't remember the exact circumstances. Officers walked down a narrow hallway to speak to the son. The son just opened the door, shot and killed both of them. Now, did they know that anything like that was going on? Did it seem like it was that serious when they showed up? Probably not. But that's the thing, you don't know. You're going into somebody's house, you're going into somebody's apartment, you're going into their world. You don't know what's there. You don't know who's there. This person might not know why you're there. This person might know that they're going to be in trouble and not want to go. So they're going to take every precaution to not go. And unfortunately, on that day, 2 officers got killed.
Wow. Listen, I appreciate you taking time tonight to be able to talk with us. Anytime that I can grab someone like you and possibly educate the public in truth instead of what they're hearing on the news, which might be total bullshit. Defund the police.
100%.
It to me, it's almost as it's a responsibility that we take the time to say, hey, you saw this crap on the news last night. Here's what really is true, and here's what's really happening. So I appreciate you taking the time to be able to do that.
No problem, and I thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Nick, any questions you have before we're going to wrap up?
No questions. Just want to thank you for coming on and let you know that I respect what you do, and I'm sure there are a lot of other people. And thank you, and stay safe. We appreciate it.
I just want to say, like you just said, there's plenty of other people who do. I, as an officer with plenty of time on the job, I know that there's plenty of people that do. I've worked in terrible neighborhoods. I've worked in Harlem where it's, crime ridden. I've worked in the Bronx where it's crime ridden. I've worked in Brooklyn where it's crime ridden. And in those neighborhoods, more people thank me for being there than curse me. Now you go into an affluent neighborhood, you go into Manhattan, you go into, a wealthy part of Queens or something like that. That's where, believe it or not, that's where you get the most, I guess, sneers. People that look at you just like, ugh. It's surprising.
Wow.
It's with everything going on, if you go on social media, you go on Twitter, you go on whatever you go on, you see so many ACAB or, fuck the police, this, and you go into these neighborhoods and you're expecting that, and you're standing on a street corner and you have, 20 people come up to you, hey, thank you for being here. We appreciate you being here. Because those are the people in the neighborhood that, are the law-abiding citizens, the business owners, the this, the that want you there to deter the crime. So sometimes you get shocked.
Social shock.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just want to make it known that it's not, we don't go out looking like, oh, everybody hates us. We know, fuck these people, blah, blah, blah. We're not like that. We have our guard up. We have our guard up because we know that there is a climate out there of people that don't like us. And then we go into that neighborhood and we get thanked, and it calms our nerves a little bit. We're not hyper vigilant. We're not, out there like, oh, everybody's out to get us. It calms our nerves a little bit. Yes, we still have our guard up because there are other people out there that don't like us. Mm-hmm. So, you asked me for 2 things. I gave you one before. That's the second thing. The general public should not take offense when we are a little bit standoffish with them. We don't know you. We don't know who you are. We don't know if you have an ulterior motive for coming up to us to talk to us.
It's odd that the public is as complicit in creating that environment as anything.
What do you mean?
The public in general is complicit in creating that standoffish tone. because of all of the backlash, all of the crap, all of the things that are shown, and then you get media involved and they say news, which is a bunch of crap. But people being as apprehensive as you are, and the only ones that people hear are the loudmouth folks.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
That's the narrative, Mike. It's the narrative.
It is.
Exactly.
And it's a shame that the narrative has become that.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, folks. Well, we seriously, we thank you for being here this evening as our guest. It's always educational to be able to talk to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Mike.
Nick, I'll catch up with you again next time. For everybody else, we'll see you next time on Pile Driver Talk Radio.